Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and today I'm bringing you into my sewing room so we can make a cute little top. And if you didn't know already, I work with the Craft Cotton Company working on sewing projects and tutorials, and most recently I'm actually working on them to create my own fabric collection, and I will share more about that with you at some point this month. So exciting. Their most recent collaboration with Simplicity is called At the Beach, and they very kindly sent me some of the stripy print fabric and I'm going to show you what I'm going to make with it. So I have just under 2 meters, which will be just enough to make the bubble frock but as a top. The bubble frock is a pattern designed by Lydia Naomi. I will leave a link in the description to her website. She has a few sewing patterns there, and also she creates YouTube videos for every pattern, which makes it really easy to follow, and it's super helpful if you find it easier to actually watch people sewing rather than trying to read instructions like me. So I think we're heading into another heat wave in the UK today, so this is going to be a great pattern for this hot August that we're going to have. So enough chatting, let's just get sewing. So I've already printed off the pattern and stuck it back together again and worked out what size I wanted to use. But the first problem I ran into was that my fabric width wasn't wide enough for this pattern, so I had to cut it against the grain, which didn't feel quite right, but it worked out okay in the end because this fabric hasn't got any stretch in it, so it doesn't really matter so much as long as the print doesn't look too off. But I quite like that it's vertical stripes and horizontal stripes. I had made a twirl of the bodice before starting on this lovely fabric because I did not want to spoil it, and actually it's very true to size. I didn't have to make any adjustments. Although I did sew it up in a size 14 when I definitely could have sized down to a 12, so this is very true to size. So here I'm cutting the front skirt first, and the back skirt pattern is the same pattern, but we are going to fold down along this dotted line, and that will give us our back skirt. Because I'm making this into a top, I'm just using this pattern as it is. If you were going to make a dress, then the pattern does state to add length to the bottom of this piece, but all the instructions are with the pattern. The top is fully lined, but I'm only going to line the top part rather than lining the skirt as well, just because I find that will be a bit quicker. So what I'll do is I will overlock the raw edge of the bottom of the lining. So now onto some actual sewing. The bodice of this dress is in 2 parts. This is called a princess seam, which is a long rounded seam used in women's clothing, and it adds some shaping and more tailored fit, similar to using darts. I'm using plenty of pins here to make sure that the curve is sewn smoothly. And I'm just taking my time here to make sure that I'm pressing the seams open. Whilst we're here ironing, I'm going to iron the straps. So I'm just going to press this like I would make bias binding, so pressing in half first and then opening out and then pressing the long edges in to meet at the middle, and then folding that in half. To create the scalloped hem, there's a pattern piece that's included in the pattern, which is a template. So you use this template to draw the scallop shapes onto the lining, and I'm just using a heat eraser pen for this. I haven't used any interfacing on the back of my scallops, but I definitely recommend that you do, just to give them a bit more structure. Once that's done, we'll pin it to the outer fabric. And I'm just going to tack those together. And then carefully sew along the scalloped line and making sure that your stitch width is slightly smaller. Now the instructions do state to use fray check in the points of the scallops just to help reinforce that small corner. But unfortunately I don't have any, so we're just going to roll with it. So here I'm snipping right up into that small little point, being careful not to go over my stitches. And then we are trimming back the excess using pinking shears, which will ensure that this fabric won't fray. I just love the sound of pinking shears, it's so satisfying. This does take a while, but once it's done, we can turn out the scallops and press. I think this is such a fun technique to learn, and it's definitely something you can put into other projects, as it would look really cute around the top of a bag or even a purse, and you definitely could incorporate it into a cushion cover as well. Onto the skirt part, I've set my stitch at the longest length, and we're just going to sew 2 lots of gathering stitches across the skirt. And once that is done on the front and back, we'll gather each skirt part to the correct bodice part. It's like a science lesson. I've skipped ahead slightly, but once the gathers are sewn, you can attach those to the bodice, and then sewing the back pieces to the front, ready to insert a zip. Following Lydia's video, she actually attaches a zip before putting the side panels on, but I got too impatient and just went straight for it. The back of the dress fastens with an invisible zip, so I'm just snapping on my invisible zipper foot. What a mouthful. I also have a super long zip, so I'm just measuring down 9 inches and leaving little marks, and that's when I know I will stop sewing. So placing the left part of the zip right sides together to the sides and sewing. So an invisible zipper foot has 2 grooves, depending on which side of the zip you're working on. So just make sure you're using the groove that's closest to the zip teeth. And I'm sewing right down to that mark that I left earlier. And then I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. Invisible zips have always seemed really daunting to me, but once you do it a few times it does start to click. And also in Lydia's video she gives a really detailed instruction on how to insert the invisible zip, so you should definitely watch her video when you're making this top. I didn't quite get close enough to the teeth, so I'm just going to do that again and get as close as I can, because I do want this zip to be as invisible as it can be. Once the zip is sewn, you can continue sewing the back panel. So pinch the 2 raw edges right sides together, and then from the end of the zip where you've sewn, carry on that seam right down to the end of the top, leaving the zip curled out. Now I'm going to construct the bodice lining in the same way I did the top. And then this will be sewn to the top hem, sandwiching in the scallop hem as well as the straps. To hem the bottom of the top, I'm using a rolled hem foot. And we are finished! I love the result. I think this top is really fun for summer. But I definitely will be making a dress version. And I'm glad that you came along with me on this little sewing journey. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to see more sewing videos like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!